Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Madam 81. I'm coming to you again with a news clip from TYT, Young Turks, and they are discussing a private school that held a mock slave auction. This is the second incident in which this has happened. This is a private school. The tuition is $14,000 starting in tuition, and we're going to get into this clip. I will reserve my opinion until the end. So, without further ado.
What?
Yeah. And so it was not like this.
A New York State Attorney General investigation actually found that black students, and we're talking about fifth graders here, they were cast as slaves in a mock slave auction. Once again, we are talking about fifth graders. So AG Letitia James said Wednesday that her office's investigation found in two separate fifth grade social studies classes, a teacher asked all of the African American students to raise their hands and then instructed them to exit the classroom and stand in the hallway. The teacher then placed imaginary chains or shackles on these students' necks, wrists, and ankles and had them then walk back into the classroom. And at that point, that's when their white classmates were encouraged to bid on them. The investigation found that the teacher's reenactments in the two classes had a profoundly negative effect on all of the students pregnant, especially the black students, and the school community at large. Following the reenactments, the schools terminated the teacher's employment. Now, we're talking about a private school in Bronxville, New York. I think it's called the Chapel School. The investigation further revealed prior parental complaints, of course, to school administrators about the school's alleged lack of racial sensitivity, and found that the school did not take sufficient steps to address the complaints. Now, the school is now going to make some changes, and this is what that looks like. The school must develop and submit a plan to increase minority representation among faculty and retain a diversity consultant for help educating students and school employees about racial and ethnic diversity in the educational setting. Annual tuition at the school is about $14,000, and they now have agreed to commit new financial aid to increase diversity in the student body, and also submit a new code of conduct to the Attorney General's office for addressing racial and ethnic discrimination and harassment, as well as other prohibited behaviors. And additionally, the school is required to create a formal complaint procedure for students or parents to report harassment or discrimination.
Okay, I have a bit of a shocking story here.
Really?
Can you beat that?
Well, hold. So at my high school, we had a slave auction.
What?
Yeah. And so it was not like this. I don't know if it was better or worse. What happened was, and I've told this in previous post games, this is the last half hour of the show for members. They had, and it was back in 1988, and they auctioned off what they considered to be the prettiest girls and guys in the school, and people would bid on them, and then they would be their slaves for a day. And they had to do whatever the person who won the auction told them, obviously within bounds and nothing sexual, right? But back in '88, in a place that was fairly diverse, where I didn't really notice much racism, and I could be totally wrong about that, but I didn't notice it. They thought that was perfectly normal, right? And by the way, most of the school was mixed, but not a lot of African Americans. There was a lot of immigrants, but not a lot of African Americans. So most of the people in the auction were white, and immigrants. But there was one black girl in the auction. My girlfriend was in the auction. I didn't win. Somebody else got her. Okay. So there's a lot of craziness. So but this. We did this before, and in a much tamer way, and then it got banned. I don't know if you guys remember this famous experiment that the teacher did in Kansas. I forget if it was the 1950s or so. So she separated the class into kids with brown eyes and blue eyes. And right, and then said, "Hey, the kids with the brown eyes, I think she said first was superior, and then the kids with the blue eyes are inferior." And man, they internalized it like that.
Yep.
the brown-eyed kids all of a sudden got all confident, and their test scores went up, and the blue-eyed kids' test scores went down. It's an amazing experiment. And then she flipped it, and it worked again with the same students. It was one of the most interesting experiments I've ever heard of. But you know what they did afterwards? They banned it, because don't do that to their kids.
Right. At the whole time I'm thinking, right, yeah.
Yeah.
It is not hard to teach slavery, and I think if you're a teacher of 10-year-olds, because that's what we're talking about, 9, 10-year-olds, and that one 11-year-old that nobody talks about why he's 11, he's still there. But like the fact that I guess she feels like the textbooks aren't educating them enough.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's like this weird thing. I just yesterday, I think I was talking about how our 8th grade teacher had us play a Civil War simulation 2 days ago, and I was one of the Southern generals. She's divided into the North and the South. Now I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It was just to show you the dynamics of the Civil War, and it didn't get racial at all, etc. But I wonder, as I was reading this story, you can't do that to the kids. That's super obvious. They should have known better. But I wonder if the teacher was trying to, in their own way, teach an interesting lesson.
I'm sure the most compassionate view of this is this person's not a monster. They're just blind to this. To me, like, this is an argument for you need diversity in levels of power. Like, I bet I look at that, I bet that's a white teacher with other white teachers surrounding them. When you're like, I have a fun, immersive way in which I'm going to engage these students, you're not hearing any outside voices to somebody just to say, hey, you might not want to pretend to shackle these children. That has some awful issues there. And I think you see this happening in a lot of different places where there isn't diversity in positions of power, where there might be people who think they are doing good things. Like, I think it's probably too easy to say, like, this is just an evil thing. Like, this is a misguided thing that's supported by other people who are also misguided, and or the circle is just too small.
That's what our textbooks sound like, though, when they talk about slavery, and they're bad. Like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, we're talking about somebody who is, and I'm calling you ridiculous, sorry, but just like the idea that a grown woman couldn't think, like, beyond, hey, maybe I shouldn't fake chain these 10-year-olds up and have them stand in front of the classroom and have their classmates pretend to bid on their worth. I can't see any other way how that's not monstrous behavior.
She's got something inside. Maybe she's got a theatrical streak and she's really trying to ingest that in somewhere. It's $14,000 a year. It's like, stop buying those Mark Twain books. Let's get a Ta-Nehisi Coates books in their stats. Let's open this up, kids.
Yeah, but look, the reason I brought up the high school story is because at the time, none of the administrators thought it was a problem. None of the parents thought it was a problem. None of the students thought it was a problem. And so it is possible to mistakenly do something that you view to be innocent that still could be traumatic. So I don't know. Dorset was the name of the African-American girl in my school that was part of that, participated in that auction. I don't know if that traumatized her, right? So we never asked. I don't know that they asked her. Maybe they did. I don't know. But but that doesn't mean you should do it. What that is I think Jordan made the best point. It's an argument for diversity. Or Brooke did. I don't know. Both of you.
I did. That was my point. I think if you play the tape back.
Right. No, and so because maybe in our school, if they had an African American that was a principal or a vice principal or administrator that could have raised their hand and go, I don't think it's a good idea, right? I don't think you should do that. And here, if we had a similar situation, and back then that was 88, this is 2019, somebody should have raised their hand and said, this is a bad idea.
But it looks like multiple parents had been raising their hands about issues. And I thought about that when you said that the parents cared about it. We don't know, because oftentimes when parents of marginalized black parents complain to, predominantly white schools about these things, nothing gets done about it.
Yeah, no,
and I always say with racism, intent does not negate impact. And I don't care. I don't care, because the reason that matters is not even so much about the harm that it causes the black person. For me, it's about because the person inflicting this pain gets so caught up on their intent that it's offensive to learn. It's offensive to do better. It's offensive to accept when you've done wrong, because you don't want people to say that you're intentionally bad. So you're going to ignore the fact that you did something wrong, that you need to do better, because it doesn't, no, I didn't mean to. And so I can't give this teacher any sort of a pass other than, hey, this is awful behavior.
Yeah, and it's important
be in charge of kids.
It's important for the rest of us to learn from that too, so that it doesn't happen again. And you're right about my high school. How do I know no parents complained about it? Seemingly to the students.
Parents have been complaining here.
Right. That's
And
right.
it got to the point where a teacher had 10-year-olds line up and pretend to be slaves.
Right. So it's actually
crazy.
The bottom line is it's not too much to ask for us to actually hear
Somebody
each
stood
other.
over you and you knew it was going to happen every day? Or you expected it to happen every day? Or it happened when you didn't expect it to? Or it happened to your kids every day? After it happened to your mother every day? Now, getting right along. Your hand is still up. You still didn't learn anything, did you? Didn't I just say when your hand is up, you are thinking of what you're going to say instead of what's being said? Didn't I just say that?
Yes, you did.
And did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
And did you decide that you were just going to do it your way?
I was.
Wait a minute, you're on a roll
Yes,
there.
I
for a minute.
did.
Yeah, thank you very
Yes,
much.
I did.
Now, since you choose to not listen to others, what do you suppose we're going to do where you're concerned?
Listen to me.
Thank you very much.
May I finish what
now,
I'm saying?
no, because you're still thinking of what you're going to say instead of what I'm saying. Now, getting right along.
I heard what you
Well,
were saying.
you're doing it again.
I understand what you were
You're
saying.
doing it again.
I don't care.
You're doing it again.
It's wrong.
You're doing it again.
Persecuted her for standing
You're
up.
doing it again.
Persecuted him for standing up. The only change that ever happens is when people stand out, and I was happening.
Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. Are you in any physical danger here? Are you in any physical danger here? Is that girl in any physical danger here? Emmett Till was hanged by his neck after he was beaten almost to death, simply because he made a statement to a white woman. People at this institution...
You've made your point, you're right.
Thank you very much. What is my point that I've made?
You can't make generalizations about any place because there's racism everywhere.
That's right. And while it may be... No. You don't come back in here until you've apologized to every person in this room. Because you just exercised a freedom that none of these people of color had. When these people of color get tired of racism, they can't just walk out because there's no place in this country where they aren't going to be exposed to racism. They can't even stay in their own homes and not be exposed to racism if they turn on the television. But you, as a white female, when you get tired of being judged and treated unfairly on the basis of your eye color, you can walk out that door. And you know it won't happen out there. You exercise the freedom they don't have. If you're going to be in here, you're going to apologize to every black person in this room. And do it now.
I'm
And
sorry.
Latinos, every person of color.
Racism, this country.
Bullshit! No, you're not going to say, I'm sorry there's racism. You're going to apologize for what you just did.
Yeah, guys, so you see right here, I let those two clips play. The first one was from TYT, Young Turks. The second one was from Janet Elliott. She is a retired American teacher who initially did the brown eyes, blue eyes test, which in turn went worldwide and has been studied for many years. That was just one focus group that she did, and it's very interesting. If you want to know more, I definitely will put her name down there. I would suggest everyone go check that out. In regards to the first clip with TYT, Young Turks, simply, I wouldn't have been complaining. I probably would have fucked that teacher up. I'm sorry. Like, you too old enough and you know a little bit more history than those children than to even put them in the situation as that. And to do it and to think that it would be okay, not taking into account how the children would feel or what what other things it could have brought up. So at the end of the day, I am satisfied and happy that the teacher was terminated, because she was terminated behind this. And I feel as though any teacher that does this should be terminated for children that age. Fifth graders, it shouldn't be taught that way. I do believe that they should teach slavery a little bit more in schools, but not in that way. Or not, honestly, from a person of Caucasian descent, because they can only tell you, they cannot, I don't feel as though they would display the correct message. That's like a teacher with a Jamaican accent teaching Spanish. I'm not saying that it can't be done, and I'm not, by any means, please don't take this as a racist rant, but I would rather hear and feel the history from the people that it affected the most. And that's the only thing I'm just saying. I don't think that it should come from the person of that nationality. It should come from, the history should come from that person, the people that experienced it firsthand. So, that's just my thoughts on it. Guys, please drop down in the comments. Please let me know how you feel about this. And I will definitely respond, positive or negative. Most definitely, I definitely will. So, without further ado, I am Madam 81, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.